What is going on, my broskiis? My name is Toadskii, back again, here to bring you guys yet another One Piece Treasure Cruise video. KIZUNA Clash finally here against Chopper, and in today's video we've got a lot of different teams that can take on each of the difficulty quests. We've got Dex, we got versus Sai, we got versus Int. One thing to note that's kind of interesting through playing this quest is that the stage 2 boss has a lot of HP. They really want you to use Boa Hancock as your friend captain so that you can use her special to get through it much more efficiently. So Boa friend captains are going to be the best way to clear this KIZUNA. Just gonna preemptively say that because through experience it appears to be that way. Not saying you can't do it, but you know, if you don't use Boa, it makes some of the fights a little more tricky because you do have to waste specials on stage 2. But anyways, talking about this KIZUNA, you know, very briefly, this is the opportunity for us to pick up the Super Evolution Skulls for Legend Chopper, which is awesome. I haven't had a look at the boxes yet, so we can have a look. Box 1 is pretty typical stuff. I usually skip box 1 because I just don't really want anything from here, to be honest. We've got box 2, which is where we get our first taste of these skulls, and then box 3, box 4, box 5, and box 6. So at the end of box 6, you'll end up getting all the skulls to super evolve your Chopper. Remember, you can get Chopper for free by playing the Chopper Man missions through Pirate Rumble. So make sure to play Pirate Rumble, get your copy of Chopper, and you can super evolve him, which is fantastic. And then box 7, I mean, it's pretty typical stuff, you know, 5 of each of the tablets, and they still have not added, you know, the rare tablets like Hunger, Shipbind, Fear Resistance, the recovery one, stuff like that. I really don't understand why they are so hesitant to update these boxes. It's just such a pain, dude. Anyways, that's pretty much it. Like, nothing really too crazy. It is just a normal, typical KIZUNA. No super boss, just a normal, regular KIZUNA clash as per usual. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the video. So jumping into it, we're going to be having 4 different teams against each of the variations. So we're going to go through all of the Dex teams first, move on to Sai, then Int. So the first team here is going to be the quote-unquote accessible team that we talked about in my preparation video that I did upload about, you know, 12, 15 hours ago. And this team is, like, pretty easy to build, I would say. Snakeman's pretty old at this point. We got, you know, old rare recruits in Gin Don Krieg as well as Jinbei. Gin Krieg specifically is very good for this quest, having a special ability that can remove the paralysis and increase defense, and the increased defense comes into play after level 30 occurs, where the enemy gets additional gimmicks. Now, this is a very interesting mechanic here on Battle 2, where you're not allowed to receive any attack buff for the rest of the quest, which is why the Boa Hancock special is so useful. We also use the super type here so that when we use the Jinbei special on Battle 3 to remove our bind, we don't get Jinbei's color affinity because the Boa Hancock one is far superior. Also, Morley gives us a conditional boost, Luffy gives us a far significant ore boost than what Gin Krieg can give to our crew as well. Ace is kind of here just to proc the super type of Luffy if we needed it. We didn't really need it, so Ace is not required on this team at all. Moving on now to a different team versus Dex, and this one is going to be utilizing Oden as the captain, which is a lot of fun. We do have K-Dad as the sub, but K-Dad isn't really required. You know, just replacing K-Dad with any unit that can just give you a full board of matching slots is going to be great, because when you use the Oden special, he makes any strength slot become Wano, and if you just have a way to give yourself a full board of matching slots, then the strength slots on your strength characters will become Wano slots instead, which is so good. K-Dad is also kind of nice because we can use the special of Oden first, we have the attack boost from Boa, and then the special of K-Dad does buff our attack and ore boost, which is fantastic. Luffy obviously just to proc the super type of Boa to give us the color affinity boost. Gin Krieg once again to get around the increased defense and also the paralysis. And Sengoku is here because after level 30 the bind is actually increased to become 9 turns of bind, so after sockets it goes down to 6. So Sengoku does remove 6 turns of bind, works out very well. Of course, you could use support effects and then lower bind removers. That will also allow you to get through it pretty efficiently. Next is going to be a team with point boosters that can get through this quest. So we're using Boa Hancock captains with the Bonnie sub. Bonnie's so good here. She gets rid of paralysis and increased defense, the exact same as Gin and Krieg, so a 1-for-1 replacement. Once again using Oden, and we are also using Marco. Marco is kind of weird. He does get rid of bind for us, which is kind of nice. But like honestly speaking, like it's kind of a weird choice. But Luffy crew once again to activate the super type of Boa. Otherwise, we're not going to get that to activate to get that color affinity boost. I don't know if this is the most efficient way to get through this quest if you have the point boosters. Obviously, if you have Pudding, that's going to be great because I think Pudding actually gets around like all of the turns of bind for you and also does special reverse, and she does another mechanic as well. I can't remember off the top of my head what mechanic that is. But if you have the Pudding, she's really nice to get around the bind, so you don't have to worry about really weird gimmicks in order, you know, to get around that. And of course, the good thing about using Luffy crew is that his final tap is so strong that adds so much additional damage to the team. And now we have our one team versus all. So I got to give credit to OPTC Kent, which is a Japanese creator on Twitter, who actually put out this team composition. And, you know, it was kind of interesting. I thought I might give it a shot, and it actually works really well. So if you have, you know, the Boa Hancock and you have the Bonnie, then this is going to work quite well. If you actually have all of the boosters, you can just straight up replace the Kinemon Denjiro for the Pudding. If you want to go ahead and do that, you're more than welcome to go ahead and try that out. But Yamato and Ace as the captain is really strong because they resist bind and they resist special bind for our crew. So we really don't have to worry about that at all. So that works out quite powerfully for our crew. Luffy crew once again to activate the super type of Boa, and also their final tap is amazing. And then obviously Kinemon Denjiro, they provide an orb boost. They get around a lot of other gimmicks for other fights. And then Boa, using double Boa is really nice because sometimes we need to get around gimmicks on Battle 2 or Battle 1, and then using another special or having access to another special is really nice, specifically for the int fight. And then Bonnie, once again, for paralysis and defense up. Moving on now to the next boss, which is against the side boss, and this is probably the most annoying boss that you will be having to deal with here. But this is the accessible team, and look, it's weird, but at least it still got the job done. I thought for sure I was going to lose due to the gimmicks that happened on Battle 2, but one thing that we did know is that the mini bosses on Battle 2 have significantly more HP than normal KIZUNA bosses. So when we get to that stage, you'll see here with Garp, he does change all your type slots into Super Block, which is why we're using Corazon as a friend. That special will allow us to get a full board of empty slots. We don't have to worry about the bad slots that Garp would typically give us. And you see that we don't actually kill him on that first turn of attacks. We get hit with paralysis and also attack down, which is so annoying. And then we have to deal with that, and after turn 3, he gives us 10 turns of special bind, but luckily we are using Ace as our captain, so we can get around that, no problemo. And then there's block slots, special reverse, special bind, bind, resilience, paralysis, attack down, just so many weird gimmicks. I don't know why they structured this fight in this way, but of course we have the specials of Luffy and Ace together to give us a mass amount of damage, and then once we are able to unbind our crew, we can also go ahead and use the super class special of Law and Corazon to get around the paralysis and the attack down, which is fantastic. We also have the delayed conditioner boost from Katarina Devon, we have an orb boost with Sakazuki, and Mihawk is able to remove the resilience for us. So it's actually a really cool team once you get to the last stage, but it is just a little finicky. Now we get to talk about the secondary team I have for versus Cyan. I mean, I think this might be the first time I've actually used this character as a captain. I mean, I might have used her one time way back when she first came out, when I first got her. But man, this character is kind of cool for this. Because of the ability to automatically launch her special at the start of the quest, we can get a full board assembler slots, and we will have to use some of them here, but you know, we're still going to have a couple of assembler slots when we reach stage 2, so we can just activate one of the Big Mom specials and the super class to get, or the super type should we say, to get an orb and an attack boost and deal with Garb very comfortably. Just consume all the slots that we need to consume. When we reach the last stage, we have yet another Big Mom special ready to go to get around those block slots. Another thing about using Big Mom that's very good is that she does get access to the Sweet Commander support, which means that on the final stage, when we are inflicted with despair after level 30, but more specifically the special bind, that support will remove the special bind for us. And then we have the Yasop, which is going to be a fantastic unit here because he gets around bind and despair, specifically the extra bind and despair that occurs after level 30, but he also deals with the special reverse, so that's fantastic for the crew. Blackbeard is not really required here because, you know, he's just here as a chain boosting unit. And then also we have the Sanji, the Sangoro, with the support of the KIZUNA rare recruit Chopper to remove 1 turn of paralysis and also 1 turn of the attack down. And then Perispero is just here because we need a unit to actually activate the super type special of Big Mom. Perispero does remove the resilience, but Big Mom also does do end of turn damage. So realistically, you could just use Big Mom's end of turn damage just to get around the resilience. But as long as you have a way to actually activate the super type special of Big Mom, that's the most important thing. But due to the fact that we're using the Sweet Commanders as the support on Big Mom, you actually lose out on a lot of really cool characters you could be using as a crewmate to activate that super type. So you have to resort to characters like Pudding, Perispero, Montdor, characters such as that. Next we have is the Booster Squad against the Sci-Fight of KIZUNA Class Chopper, and due to the fact that we get super block slots on Battle 2, you could just use a Boa Hancock special on Battle 1, so that when you reach Battle 2, you get the full board of super block, but they're actually treated as neutral slots due to Boa's effect. However, you don't want to have super block slots when you reach the final stage, so it's better to just deal with them on Battle 1, which is what we're doing here. We use Luffy and the Straw Hat special here because we really don't need it for the final stage. We get a full board of rainbow slots. They can't be changed by the enemy at all, so that's fantastic for us as we just have a full board of amazing slots to deal with against Garb. From here though, we can activate, you know, all the specials that we want. We got Boa Hancock, of course, so we can just deal with Garb more efficiently. Even just normal attacks here, due to the fact that, you know, Boa is super effective against all types, and she gets like additional stats in the event itself. I'm pretty sure you don't even need to activate an additional special here anyway, but it just makes it more efficient for getting through this quest. But, you know, we want to actually try and consume as many slots as we can, because we want to use the Oden special to give us the better orb boost than what Bonnie would give us, but also the fact that we want to get the Wano slots, because after we use Oden special, when you use the Bonnie special, they get changed into matching, and then if it's a strength character with a strength slot, it gets changed to Wano, so we just get more damage output if we are able to consume as many of those rainbow slots as we can. Also, a couple of key supports on the team as well. We have the Raizo and Oden, as well as the, what do you call it? You had the Sabo. the Sabo, which attached to Luffy and the Straw Hats to get around the special bind on the final stage. So there's a couple different ways we get around resilience. Obviously, we have the end of turn damage of Riser himself from that support, but we also have the Luffy crew final tap, which is what I just do here because I like seeing the animation. That final tap is so broken, getting through all these really stupid effects, so works out very, very well. The one team versus all versus the Psy fight, I think it is going to work, but it really depends on how the gimmicks get inflicted to the crew post level 30. Because the way that I think about it is we get inflicted with all of the normal debuffs first, and then with the Yamato and Ace Captain, they remove the bind and the special bind for us. But then after level 30, we get inflicted with Despair and additional bind. So I think it should still work. You know, if we get inflicted with the additional bind, we've got the Cat Viper support, which can remove bind for us, which is fantastic. It's only an additional 4 turns of bind, so I think, you know, if we get hit first, but I'm not really too sure how the gimmicks work. I really don't understand how it works. I think it should work. If it doesn't, then obviously we're going to have to make some slight adjustments to the team. But if everything works according to plan, this is going to be great, of course. We get around a lot of the gimmicks, of course, due to the Cat Viper support getting around attack down for us, also removing an additional turn of bind if we need it. Bonnie getting around the paralysis. We have the bind and special bind, obviously, through the Yamato and Ace. Luffy and the Straw Hats get around the resilience due to the fact of their final tap. We've already discussed that. It's such a powerful effect to have. And then, of course, Despair will be eventually removed with the Bonnie character. We got Kinemon Denjiro for another orb boosting effect, and it just works really, really well. Now we get to have a look at the int variation of the Chopper KIZUNA Clash fight. So this one is interesting as there's a really odd kind of gimmick that occurs on Battle 2. All of these KIZUNA bosses have weird gimmicks on Battle 2. So this time around, the enemy puts up 10 turns of Rainbow Shield, which is normally very difficult to get around. You know, multiple specials are a lot of the time you need to use multiple specials to get around it. However, they actually have an additional gimmick where if you inflicted the enemy with a Love or a Petrify status, then they actually completely remove the Rainbow Shield. So what you want to do is with Boa Friend Captain, you can use the special ability of Boa on Battle 2, removes the enemy's Rainbow Shield completely, and then you can go ahead and get the dub. Additionally, when you kill the boss in Battle 2, you get a full board of matching slots, which is fantastic, and you can use that to your advantage with a character like Yamato, for example, to change all of those matching slots into Wano, which is great. It obviously makes sense with the whole gimmick because it's Sanji, you know, and the fact that, you know, he loves women, and if you use the Boa effect, you can just get all the beneficial effects due to doing that, which is awesome. On the boss stage, though, 8 turns of Despair. After level 30, though, it will you'll also have to deal with paralysis, and then there's in total 6 turns of Rainbow Shield after level 30, 5 turns naturally. So we have a couple of different specials here to get around the Rainbow Shield. We've got the Luffy, the Katakuri, and the Cruzan all deal with Rainbow Shield in their own fashion. We got the Chopper to deal with the paralysis and the Despair. This team isn't very efficient though because we only get an attack boost. We actually don't have an orb boost because in my mind I thought I was going to keep the Boa attack boost, but of course there's Despair. There's actually damage when you reach the last stage as well. So of course we're not going to keep the attack boost of Boa. So realistically you'd probably want to change out Katakuri for something else, most likely. Something that gives you an orb boost for Psy characters would be more ideal. But at the end of the day, it actually works pretty well for a relatively quote-unquote accessible team. Moving on, we get to actually go ahead and use the Film Red Snakeman legend, which I actually don't get a lot of opportunity to use. So any opportunity that I can use him, it's always a lot of fun to go ahead and do it. Being able to launch his special multiple times per turn to get a massive attack boost, massive orb boost, full border slots, and buffed versions of the attack and orb boost. Of course, we just mentioned it in the previous clip, but using Yamato to change the slots that we get on Battle 2 into Wano, getting a huge chain boost off of that as well. We have Sanji for Chain Boundary, also getting around some Rainbow Shield. The support of Ace on Luffy, removing some of the Rainbow Shield as well, so we can completely get rid of that. Chopper once again for Despair and Paralysis removal. And then we have the Usopp and Yasop, which is the cherry on top, giving us the delayed conditional boost. And with the support of Brook, we can get an additional chain multiplicative buff. This team goes hard. This is going to do so much freaking damage. If you opt to use this team, you're not going to have an issue. You're not going to need to change this throughout the entire duration of this Kizuna. Mark my words. This is going to do, you know, easily over 1 billion. Like, no doubt in my mind. Like, this is just a crazy team. And, you know, it's cool that you get to use something like this, and it does use a Boa friend captain as well, so you can go ahead and get, you know, the most out of it in terms of tickets. So if you have additional boosters, you could definitely put them on the team if you wanted to abuse, you know, characters such as Usopp and Yasop or Yamato and stuff like that. It's just a bunch of fun. Then we have the boosted team versus the in-fight. So, of course, we're using Boa Hancock. We're using the Jewelry Bonnie, as we mentioned. Also, Kinemon Denjiro are a really good unit here, too, because remember, after level 30, the Rainbow Shield will be 6 turns total. Their special does remove 6 turns of Rainbow Shield, as well as gives you a pretty significant orb boost to Free Spirit and Slasher characters, which is essentially the whole team. We're using double Boa here so we can actually get the attack boost of Boa, but on the final stage, it's actually better to get the attack boost of Luffy, because I believe his attack boost is 3.25, which is just absolutely absurd. So, you know, normally you'd probably want to get their orb boost, Luffy's attack boost instead, but, you know, you can use any combination of it. You just need a Luffy on the team to get the super type of Boa to activate, so that Luffy can literally be switched out for whatever Luffy you want. Usopp and Yasop once again, just because we have the space to do it. Like, there's really not a lot of gimmicks on this in-fight, which definitely makes it a lot easier to build teams for. And then finally, we have the one team versus all, and, you know, this one, is pretty straightforward. Kinemon Denjiro getting around the Rainbow Shield. We still have to deal with Despair and Paralysis, which is why we have the Bonnie. They deal with that. We have double Boa, so we can use one Boa on Battle 2. We have another Boa for the last stage, but realistically, the Yamato and Ace's attack boost is far more significant than what the Boa's is, so we actually want to use their attack boost on the last stage anyway. The switch effect for the Chain Boundary, of course, Luffy and the Straw Hats for all of their amazing buffs. specifically talking about the final tab for even more damage on the last stage. This team goes absolutely hard, but that is going to wrap it up from me, guys. Thank you so much for watching this really long video. If you guys enjoyed the video today, make sure to go ahead and leave a like, and if you want to stay up to date with all the content that I post, including more One Piece Treasure Cruise content, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below. Other than that, guys, I'll see you guys within the next video.
Sa